What is up, everyone? I want to do a quick video about my throttle cable situation. So over the years that I had this bike, and this is a 2020, I've had to lube up my throttle every so often. When I say lube up, I don't necessarily mean the cables. I've done that once or twice, but I'm talking about the actual inside of the throttle tube. A lot of gunk gets built up under there, so I pull off the grip, I clean off the handlebar, and then I use some dry lube on the handlebar before I put the throttle back on, and that usually makes it pretty butter smooth. However, a couple of days ago I realized that my throttle is once again acting a little sticky. You can see even more so when I twist my handlebars here. See? It doesn't even return. It doesn't feel grindy, it's just stiff. And so I figured, okay, time for a lube, right? So I pull this guy off, I clean everything off, I use some dry lube like I mentioned, and put the throttle back on, and unfortunately didn't fix the situation. So let me show you what I did figure out. So I disassembled the throttle mechanism, I pulled it apart. Inside it was a little gunky like I mentioned, but when I pulled on the throttle cables themselves, they felt a little stiff, so I figured probably time to lube them. However, before lubing them, I wanted to inspect them, make sure there's no damage that I'm not seeing. And so hopefully you can see this, but the throttle housing here separated, and there is a lot of gunk and rust in the throttle cable itself. So lubing it isn't going to really fix anything. I could use something to try to control the rust, but this isn't good, and I feel like this is just a cable waiting to break. So I got myself a replacement throttle cable. It's the full assembly. The throttle part here and the engine side here. We're gonna go ahead and replace this guy. I think we can get to what we need by removing the pipe and then pulling off the cover on the throttle body in there. And hopefully that will give us enough room to then get the throttle cables out. All right, so I got my seat off, my tank off, my pipe off, and I did manage to pull off the cover from the throttle body. You can kind of tell these are a little rusty too. Now to get them out, you technically remove these, but I figure let's first give it some slack and release some tension at the throttle side, right? So I try to adjust these, but unfortunately these are also basically stuck. So something within here is also rusted or gunked up. So I can't do much here. So we're gonna pull them off on the other side and then work backwards. All right, so I got the cables off and they're in way worse shape than I imagined. You know, I take pretty good care of my bike, but I admit I don't wash out this part every time, right? This is inside the throttle body essentially, and that looks terrible. So these have 290 original hours on them. I'm honestly kind of surprised they lasted that long given the shape they're in. So yeah, I'm glad I'm doing this job. On the throttle side, they don't look terrible. They're a little worn here, but no major visible rust, like I said, until you get to this spot here. And I have no doubt water's been seeping through this and going down, which is why the bottom looks so much worse. But yeah, these are seized. These barrel adjusters are seized in here, so this is definitely garbage. All right, I'm gonna install the new cable and we'll see how that works out for us. Alrighty, cables are replaced. So this was actually fairly easy. On the old cables, all you gotta do is loosen these two barrels. That lets you pop the cables out, and then when you pop them out, you can unhook them from the throttle body here. So this is the operation of the throttle now. Butter smooth. I'm assuming the cables are going to stretch a little bit and I'll have to adjust them a little bit more, but right now they're feeling really, really good. And on this end you can see also that was pretty easy. You basically take apart this housing and you route the cables through onto the throttle tube and reassemble. So yes, this is how the throttle is supposed to respond. Even when I pull it down here, you'll note it still snaps back. Not as quickly, but it still snaps back. That's because just the way the cables are routed through here. Overall, that was a pretty easy job. Didn't take too long. Unfortunately, the cables are a little expensive. They're just over $100 for the set, but it was definitely needed for me at least, and I recommend you guys check your throttle cables in case you haven't done so. I regret not doing it sooner because honestly, I think they were about to break and that would have been bad, especially some of the trails that we ride down here. So now all I gotta do is reassemble the bike, get this cover back on, get the tank back on, get the pipe back on, and test it out, but I'm expecting it to be fine. So anyway, hope this helps someone. Like I said, check your cables. You don't wanna get stranded. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as usual, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.